of Outlaws crowned its 4th winner in 4 races last Sunday in Mesquite, Texas at the famous Devil's Bowl. At the start of the 30-lap feature, up jumped the Devil to spear Jack Haudenschild after contact with Bobby Davis Jr.'s car. The second attempt to start the feature is more successful. Steve Kinzer in number 11 and Ron Schumann in 21 are on the front row, and in the first turn, Kinzer grabs the lead and takes off from the rest of the field, but things will change later. Bobby Allen in the blue and white 1A and Brad Doty contest 4th and 5th. The veteran Allen is playing it cool, conserving tires. Lap 13 and Lee Brewer loops in turn 4 after a bump with another car, but everyone avoids. Sammy Swindell is also aware of the hard, slick track and tire wear. He hangs back in 6th until late when he charges to the front. Allen, meanwhile, has caught Kinzer, and in turn 1, Steve jumps the cush and Allen sails by along with 3 others. Steve battles back to contest 2nd with Swindell, but Sammy holds on to 2nd. It's Allen's 13th career World of Outlaw win, his 1st since late August.
Whatever became of the winner of the very first ESPN auto racing broadcast? USAC Sprint Car, Salem, Indiana, 1979. The son of a former sprint car designer and later Indy crew chief, and now general manager of GT&T, the U.S. distributor of March racing cars, Greg Leffler. That win propelled him to the championship, a subsequent stint in Indycar's brief. Greg, where did you expect to end up?
Well, at that time, I had hoped that I would be winning IndyCar races. That has always been my goal.
Is it dream over?
I think so, yes. I hate to say it, but when you see how much money's involved to do the proper job now, and I think I missed out a lot there in the earlier years of preparing myself for finding that kind of sponsorship, and I think it's a little bit too late.
It took unique courage to run the Midwest high-bank paved tracks. Greg, ever feel out of place as a businessman?
I'd wanted to come up through and hopefully make something out of myself racing Indy cars and be able to invest and get some kind of a business started. And so I'm kind of doing what I want to do, but not my first choice.
Being USAC Sprint Car champion, you've been in the Indianapolis 500, you've finished in the top 10. Does it ever cross your mind that it's all kind of been unfair to you in the final analysis?
Well, yeah, I think I sometimes think of it in that sense, but in the other sense, you know, a guy has to be alert, and I wasn't aware of the big money that it took to do the proper job in Indy cars, so I just kind of blame myself for half of it, and the other half, maybe if I'd have been born 10 years earlier, it might have been different.
How good was Greg Leffler, at least potentially?
Well, I think I had the potential to be there. I think now, looking back, knowing what I know now, and had another chance if I was, say, 18 years old, I could have a lot better showing for myself. But we'll never know that, really, will we?
Depending on your point of view, he's either a victim or a result of the new wave of IndyCar racing. Whatever the case, I think it's a very important story and one for every young racer to watch.
Get direct deposit wherever you have your checking or savings account.
Oh, come on, get out of line.
Hi, this is Steve Lyons of the Boston Red Sox. I've always admired the spirit of great competitors, and some of the greatest are the handicapped children and adults who compete in the Rhode Island Special Olympics. Each competitor's a winner, and in the end, each wins a new self-confidence and self-respect. It's only because of donations and volunteers that the games exist. So please support the Rhode Island Special Olympics. After all, there's only one race that really counts: humanity.
Arrangements made through Eastern Airlines, the official airline of Walt Disney World, with more flights to more of Florida. At Eastern, we earn our wings every day.
It's always nice for the Grand National sportsmen to get down to the real business of their season. After all that super speedway racing and interloping Winston Cup stars, no track breathes as the soul of sportsman racing more than Hickory. And there's a fitting ending to the story, too. We keep saying that Brad Teague is due, and here early from on high he directs the maestro, Jack Ingram, though Jack will play lead chair for 190 of 200 laps. A Herculean race all day among the top 10. Here's a sample of the labors of Charlie Luck, Tommy Houston, L.D. Ottinger, and Larry Pearson. Houston finishes 5th after losing 4th to the Kit, that's a word for young, Fox, Pearson, late. L.D. earned a 3rd place, but the value of silver escalates. Just 10 to go. Ronnie catches Jack at speed and passes him. His first win for new no sponsor in old sponsors, Jeff Brabham lookalike, uniform. Ingram assumes the points lead.
Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd will team again to drive the Folgers Mustang at Sebring's GTO race next week. The final IMSA race this season will not be at Daytona, as has been the case the past few years. The November 9th date has been given to Del Mar, California.
A new entry in the Camel Light class will make its debut at Road Atlanta. The Pontiac Fiero GTP is built to resemble the Fiero Street version. Lamborghini has entered WEC racing by placing one of its V12 motors in a Tiga chassis. And the NHRA is back in action this weekend in Gainesville, Florida. Don Garlitz debuts his new Streamliner.
The first Trans Am race of 1986 is scheduled for mid-May at Riverside. The team that has won the series for the last 2 years is at work on a new project. Jack Roush Performance Engineering is located in suburban Detroit and in 10 years has grown to a major complex. Roush, a former Ford engineer, has run Capris the last 2 years, but in 1986 will utilize new cars and engines.
It will be conceived around a turbocharged formula, 4-cylinder engines with electronic fuel injection, and it'll be a high-tech image car to go out against some other high-tech image cars that are in the series, and to do battle against the backbone of basic V8 muscle cars that are there left over from the late 70s and the early 80s.
The new Merkur project is, however, behind schedule. Lee White, last year with Paul Miller's Porsche team, has been recently hired by Roush as motorsports manager.
We started the program in December, and we're having to put a finished operational race car on the track in less than 4 months. When Jack originally developed his engines for the Trans Am, for the Mustangs and Capris, he worked 15 months on the engines alone before they ever turned the wheel.
In 34,000 competitive miles last year, Roush cars won 75% of the races entered. But racing is only part of his business. One of the 7 buildings in the complex is almost entirely filled with dynamometers, utilized not only by Ford technicians, but by nearly all major car manufacturers. Roush's goals? To win races, and like a true Ford man, come up with a better idea.
My greatest satisfaction comes from going to a racetrack and trying our new systems and testing those in closed sessions where we race against ourselves. My greatest personal satisfaction is running the dynamometers. And we make all the rules. And there's no tech hassle. And if the air's bad, we wait and do it another day.
Jack is also planning a Winston Cup car for later this season. He hopes to have it ready for either Watkins Glen or Atlanta.
In our next segment with IndyCar racing just around the corner, testing intensifies.
And the intensity of business may impact your local track. Stay with us.
The most significant IndyCar testing, the high-speed Laguna Seca and Indianapolis Speedways. Biggest news, the apparent speed superiority of March over Lola. But at Indy Tuesday, Lola's Pancho Carter was at 2:11 and Jeff Brabham at 2:09, the quickest so far. At Laguna, it's March's Bobby Rahal. Recent testers, the Penske team. John Gregg reports.
With the IndyCar season just around the corner, the Roger Penske racing team with Danny Sullivan at the wheel recently concluded testing of their 86 March at Laguna Seca. New car rules this year have changed the height of side pods, and they've allowed the cars to have larger front and rear wings. For team manager Derek Walker and Sullivan, that means a lot of time spent at the track testing what amounts to be a brand new car.
We're just trying to set up and balance the car and try different things, different wings, spring, shock setups, just trying to really learn the new car and figure out what it does, and if we change this, how it's going to react and respond to those changes.
The 86 March is basically an interim car until the long-awaited Penske PC-15 is ready sometime later this year. However, it's crucial for the Penske team that the new March is competitive.
The car will be completed. It's just we have to kind of be prepared in case there's some problems. Of course, the beginning of the season, you can't give those races away and those points. We got to be ready and go out there and try to win right off the bat.
From Laguna Seca, this is John Gregg for Speedweek.
Penske continues development of the new Ilmor Chevrolet engine. Both Cosworth and Ilmor are being constantly road tested, as is the new Penske chassis. Both will debut this year when ready. Till then, it's March Cosworth.
Bill and Don Whittington and a third person have been charged with operating a multi-million-dollar marijuana smuggling ring and with filing false tax returns. A plea bargaining agreement reportedly calls for Bill to plead guilty and be sentenced to 15 years in prison. Don and the third man would receive 18-month sentences and be required to forfeit $8 million in assets.
Beatrice will begin to phase out its sponsorship involvement in IndyCar and Formula One racing and complete the phase-out next year. It is said that Andrea de Cesaris will drive the Ferrari IndyCar later this year, but another rumor has Mario Andretti and the Newman Haas team associated with it.
Frank Williams, the head of the Williams Formula One racing team, is paralyzed in an intensive care following a traffic accident in France last Saturday. Christian Danner, last year's Formula 3000 champion, will be driving the Osella F1 car this year. By the way, we'll have a preview of the Formula One season later in the show.
Bob, to the casual fan, this next story about insurance may seem boring or out of place in this show, but we found it's a story not blown out of proportion.
Racetrack owners and promoters around the country are facing higher premiums. K&K Insurance is the largest agency for automobile racing, and its motorsports division vice president is Joe Repass.
In 1986, the insurance industry in general is affecting drastic changes in the way that they do business. And those drastic changes are caused by a problem which they've come across, and that is a financial problem. So the effect is that the insurance industry in general is raising rates, and they're being very selective on who they insure.
For at least one track owner, Roger Holdeman of Indiana's Winchester Speedway, the higher insurance rates were shocking.
When I saw my insurance figures for 1986, it made me as a promoter think twice about retirement. However, I'm not going to do that, but it made me at least think about it.
One reason for these increased rates may be the lawsuit-oriented society that we live in.
It is a catch-22 situation for sure, and it does not pertain particularly to automobile racing. In general, it pertains to the entire environment. The medical people tell us that the reason medical costs are so high is because of the insurance rates. On the other hand, here are the insurance people telling us the reason insurance is so high is because of medical rates. I certainly hope state legislatures and national politicians will take an honest look at what's going on here, because something is drastically wrong.
Bill France Jr. of Daytona International Speedway paid higher premiums this year, but doesn't see tracks closing because of the higher rates.
No, I don't see that happening yet, based on 1986 numbers. But the trend is in the wrong direction. I can tell you that. Of course, the insurance industry says that what you were paying the years past wasn't enough.
The promoter at Ascot Park in California, Kerry Agajanian, disagrees and thinks he has a possible solution.
The answer is in legislation. We have to get the state in the states across the United States, but in California particularly, we have asked the legislature to pass a law which will protect the promoters, the other drivers, and anybody else involved within the racing field itself to absolve anyone within there from any liability.
In completing the story, I have found that it seems the American public is its own worst enemy. First victim of this insurance phenomenon, Mount Clemens Speedway in suburban Detroit. 35 years, continuous operation, it's over.
Now here's this week's trivia question. Who finished second in the 1979 USAC Sprint Series won by Greg Leffler? A, Steve Chassie, B, Larry Rice, C, Tom Bigelow, D, Bubby Jones, or E, Rich Vogler? I'll have the answer in a moment. Here's the answer to this week's trivia question. The driver with whom Greg Leffler battled until the final race of 1979 for the USAC Sprint title was D. Bubby Jones. He took the points lead in late April and held it until the twin 50-lappers at Winchester on October 22nd. Following the 1979 season, Bubby headed west to run CRA, where he has become a two-time champion.
The romance of Formula One and all those exotic venues is just around the corner. The season begins next week in Rio, as in Brazil, and as in NASCAR, you won't be able to tell the players without a program. Many changes, mostly precipitated by the second retirement of three-time world champ Niki Lauda, at least one in each career. When he left the infinitely successful two-time defending championship McLaren team, it set musical seats in motion. His chair grabbed by the flying Finn, Keke Rosberg. Keke's seat, Williams, goes to Swift, two-time champ Nelson Piquet. His ex-throne, the often rapid Brabham, hires on Elio De Angelis. That's the last straw in breaking up the old, seemingly forever Lotus team. New Lotus lineup, the arrogant and awe-inspiring Ayrton Senna. And newcomer, Formula 3 champ Scotland's Johnny Dumfries. Preseason Rio testing, a couple of Brazilians, the Comets, timing below the track record, Senna and Piquet. The Ferraris of Alboreto and Johansson, third and fourth, and champ Alain Prost, fifth.
Larry and Jackie Stewart will have the Formula One races here on ESPN beginning in Rio March 23rd. And next week on Speed Week, we'll have NASCAR and ARCA at Atlanta and NHRA in Gainesville. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber, reminding you that the evening showing of Speed Week next week is Saturday at 5:30. See you then.
Week has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road.